Millions of dollars worth of funding for video game development in the form of Screen Australia's Interactive Games Fund has recently been cut as a result of the federal budget. Western Australian games creators will be particularly hard hit by this cut because they cannot apply to state body Screen West as an alternative source of funding, as happens in other states. Today, Undercurrent spoke to local games creator Saxon Druce to hear what this development will mean for the WA gaming community.
So I think it was about almost 2 years ago when the Labor government decided to put, I think it was $20 million towards the games industry, and they basically gave it, put it upon Screen Australia, who fund movies and film and stuff like that, and TV, to administer the fund. The criteria was you had to have already developed some games in the past. You couldn't just go in with just an idea. And so I think for pretty much everybody, they were already successful developers. It was more a case of giving them the opportunity to take things to that next level. Binary Space, I started about 5 years ago with a friend, and the idea was to build a zombie game based on Google Maps, where zombies come out, attack the civilians fight back, and then you play from there. So I've been working that in a spare time. So about 5 years ago, we released the first version online, and that's had about 4 million players online. A couple of years ago, released on iOS, had about 250,000 downloads there. So, and now working on an Android version of it. With the iOS version of Zombie Simulator, at the time I applied, I think it had earned about 30 grand, and so on iOS, most developers earn more, so I figured I'd ask for a bit less on Android, but I was encouraged to ask for a bit more to cover marketing and things like that, and so yeah, I ended up getting 30 grand. So the main thing that's allowed me to do is hire a programmer and an artist. The advantage of hiring another programmer was to get things done faster, and to hire an artist to be able to make stuff look good. Otherwise, I would have had to settle for lower quality artwork. And then about a third of the budget is set aside for marketing as well, so when I actually finished, I'll be able to buy advertising essentially to get more people.
Now that the Interactive Games Fund has been axed, do WA games developers have other avenues to apply for funding?
There isn't really anything here. So Binary Space was me here in Perth and another guy in Adelaide. I'm originally from Adelaide, moved here about 13 years ago. And so we at the time had been looking for other sources of funding 4 or 5 years ago. And here in WA there is Screen West, but they don't fund games. They have a blanket policy against that. Whereas over in SA they were willing to consider games, and so we were talking to them about some funding. But here in WA there's really no other options other than, say, going to the market and looking for investment from angel investors and things like that, or friends and family. Within the sort of, Screen West has Screen in the name, Screen Australia has Screen in the name. I think if they're trying to support the screen industry, I think games is very important. And I think games are even at a high, sort of a next level beyond film and TV, as in it adds that interaction. But I definitely think culturally and for the benefit of the country and that kind of stuff, I definitely think investing in games is just as good as investing in film and TV. And I think the benefit as well of game development is, 95% of my revenue from the iOS version of the game is from overseas. So it is definitely an export industry, and you don't necessarily have to do anything different to promote it. You just put it up on the app stores and then it sells internationally.
What do you think will be the main impact of this reduction or complete lack of funding for the game development industry in WA?
I guess we'll just have to go back to what we were doing before, which I think, as most of WA development is sort of indie developers working in their spare time or scrounging together what they can. And I think we're already doing quite well. I think 4 WA projects have received funding, and I know of at least 3 of them, including mine, that were already successful projects that had managed to make do with what was available. And the funding is just allowing us all to go to that next step, so maybe hire some people or be a bit more ambitious. So I think, it'll be cool to see what comes of the 3 projects that have been funded, and whether we can continue to take that to the next level with what we make out of that. But I think in general the industry will just, keep doing what it has been doing, and a lot of people will just be doing it in their spare time and scrounging by with what they can. So it'll be, I think the funding is useful to bring it to another level, but I think people are still motivated to make games, and I think people do it a lot of the time because they enjoy doing it. So.
Though WA's small but strong games development industry is sure to soldier on, this cut to the Interactive Games Fund will make their work more difficult in the future. This has been Alicia Pereira reporting for Undercurrent.